Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's training. And before we start, some of you might be thinking, how can you possibly talk about hydration and drinking water for 45 minutes? And honestly, that is a fair question because we all know we should be drinking more water, right? But we don't always prioritize it, I think, in the same way as we do other areas of health. But what I hope today is to show you that hydration is actually one of the simplest and most overlooked ways to support your energy, your focus, and performance at work and beyond. So let's get into it. Today's training is all about the importance of hydration on your mind and body. Just a quick little bit about me before we start. So my name's Hayley and I'm a registered nutritionist, and I run an online coaching clinic where I work with clients to get to the root cause of their symptoms, very much specializing in women's hormonal health. But I also do quite a bit of corporate work like this, so helping people to understand how small practical changes can make a big difference to how they feel day to day. And hydration is one of the first things I look at with my own clients as well, because it's often overlooked and it can have a huge impact. Outside of work, I'm a mum of two, so I completely get what it's like to juggle work, life, and having a family as well. And I firmly believe in balance. So that does include things like cheese, chocolate, and a good glass of Merlot. So, firstly, I want to say that it's great you're taking some time today to focus on your health, because often that is the first thing I know from experience that gets pushed down the priority list. But over the next 30 minutes or so, here's what we're going to cover. We're going to start with what hydration actually means and why it matters, not just for your health, but for your energy, focus, and performance at work. Then we'll look at some of the common signs of dehydration, things you might be experiencing day to day without necessarily linking it back to hydration. We'll also explore why so many of us struggle to stay hydrated, especially within a work environment. And most importantly, I'm going to be sharing some simple, practical strategies you can start using straight away, both at work and at home. And then we'll leave some time at the end for a live Q&A. I wanted to start off with a quote by Leonardo da Vinci. This guy, he said, water is the driving force of all nature. You know, it's essential to life. But I think for many of us, hydration feels quite basic. So we don't always give it the attention that it deserves. And what I want to show you today is just how much impact something so simple can actually have. To show you why this matters, let's look at a few quick facts. Firstly, our bodies are made up of around 60% of water, depending on age and gender. Despite that, most people aren't drinking enough. You know, research suggests that the average intake is well below recommended levels, and an estimated 58% of British adults are living in a state of chronic low-grade dehydration. We know that 73% of an adult's brain is made up of water, so it's not surprising that even small changes in hydration can affect how we think and feel. You might have heard the general guidance that the NHS recommends around 6 to 8 glasses of fluid per day. And don't get me wrong, that is a really helpful starting point. But what we're going to do today is get a bit more specific, because hydration isn't one size fits all. And finally, fatigue is one of the most common reasons people visit their GP, and dehydration may play a role in up to 10% of those cases, it's thought. Before we get into the detail, it's worth taking a step back and looking at why hydration actually matters. So just to kick things off with a question, how much water do we need to lose before it starts to affect our mental performance? A 1%, B 5%, C 10%, or D 20%. So studies show that even mild dehydration, 1% water loss, can impair many aspects of cognitive function. So let's dive into this a bit more. So, brain health and performance. This is a really interesting one and is something most people aren't aware of. So, your brain actually has its own built in cleaning system known as the lymphatic system. It works a bit like a dishwasher, using fluid to clear out that waste that builds up in the brain throughout the day. And this system is most active during deep sleep, which is one of the reasons why sleep is so important for our brains. And hydration plays a key role here because it relies on fluid to move out that waste effectively. So, if you're not well hydrated, this process may not work as efficiently, which can affect how refreshed, how clear headed, and focused you feel the next day. And over time, this system is also linked to overall brain health, which makes hydration an important part of the bigger picture. So it's not just about getting through the day with hydration, it's about how well your brain resets, which directly impacts your performance. Beyond the brain, hydration supports how your body functions more broadly. So, water acts as a transport system in the body. 90% of the blood is actually water. It helps to carry oxygen, vitamins, and minerals where they're needed and supports the absorption of nutrients from the foods that we eat. It also plays a role in physical performance, helping our muscles to function, supporting movement as well. Probably the most well-known one is that hydration is also key for regulating body temperature. Your body uses water to cool itself, primarily through sweating. So when you're dehydrated, that system becomes less efficient. And this is especially relevant in warmer environments, but also in offices with heating or air conditioning, where fluid loss can increase without us even noticing. We know water helps to break down food and supports the movement of that food through the digestive system. So it can help in some cases to prevent things like constipation. It also supports the body's natural detoxification processes, helping the kidneys, liver, and gut eliminate waste effectively. And it also supports things like skin health, helping to maintain hydration and elasticity. I couldn't help but include a slide on female health. This is very much the area I specialize in. And when I work with clients, one of the first things I get them to do is to complete a weekly food diary. And yes, I'm obviously looking at things like their diet, their nutrition, but I'm also looking at their hydration as well, because time and time again, it's one of those things that's overlooked, but can have a really noticeable impact on how women especially feel. For example, during perimenopause, dehydration can make those hot flushes feel more intense. There can be a bit of a cycle where hot flushes lead to fluid loss, and then dehydration makes it harder for the body to regulate temperature. With fertility, hydration also plays a role because cervical mucus is largely made up of water. So being hydrated helps to support that optimal environment for conception. And I often see it with things like menstrual cramps as well, where hydration influences circulation and how intense those symptoms feel. And as we know, even mild dehydration, just 1%, can affect mood, increasing irritability and fatigue, which can make PMS feel worse. So something as simple as drinking enough water can actually make a meaningful difference to your hormonal health as well. So before we define what dehydration actually is, I would love for you all to have a think. What kinds of signs or symptoms do you notice when you're dehydrated? I mean, for me, one of the first things I notice is fatigue. I just feel a bit more sluggish or low in energy. But put simply, dehydration is when your body is losing more fluids than it's taking in. And the tricky thing is, it doesn't always show up as obvious thirst. It can show up in really subtle ways, things like headaches or fatigue, or that afternoon energy slump that many of us are familiar with. You might also notice things like brain fog, reduced concentration, or even feeling a little bit more irritable than usual. Physically, it can present as things like dizziness, constipation, dry mouth, skin or lips, and even reduced urine output. Some people also experience cravings, particularly for things like sugar or caffeine, which can sometimes be the body looking for a quick energy boost when hydration is low.